sweetest moment for me was during the championship game, where as the game was going on, I took a step back and I looked around and I was thinking to myself, because I had the conversation with them where it was like, we knew that we were capable and we knew what we were able to do, right? We knew that we wanted to do it together in Toronto, you know? And just to be in that moment where we were minutes away from achieving, you know, the goal in which we had set. From all the hard work we had put in, we were just minutes away from
Hamilton Tiger Cats trying to find the end zone. There they do. A touchdown for Winnipeg. The last time they lost in a Grey Cup was on this field in 1987. Oliveira, and that's for 2 before eventually starring in Georgia State, but now he's a Grey Cup champion. Cameron Dukes, final play. Well, they lost their number 1, found a way. For the second time in 3 years, Toronto is the Grey Cup champion.
And now it is my honor and privilege on behalf of the CFL's
I think that's the greatest moments to this day, because I got to share an experience with guys who I consider my brothers now, you know, guys who had started my career with. And 7 years down the line, we're lifting up the cup again together, right? So I think that one was one of the most special moments.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we'll go home now. We'll go home now. So thank you so much for the experiences you've been able to share with us, and through your eyes we have been able to cross the seas, and, you know, and we've joined you in the, what do you call it, football field? What do you call it there?
Yeah, the football field.
Is field the term you use to describe your pitch there?
Yeah, we use field.
Okay, you use field, okay. So we've joined you there, we've seen the game through your eyes, we've enjoyed the high moments and the crushing moments also. And I think all of them have their place in your development as a person, as a sportsman and things. We thank God for every of those moments. So now in the next few minutes, we'll just come home. And then we'll round it up. So thank you out there. Ndeba indu Umueri. I think I should akamano na be nwanne nwoke bụ Chief John METCHIE bụ PG Umueri. Muna nwe abu Nnamdi kana abali ụka kita na amu. Enjoying a very beautiful moment here in the garden here at the chateau with Nnamdi ROYCE. METCHIE. Now, ROYCE, Nnamdi, rather. I think we've left ROYCE in Canada now. We are back. We're back home.
Back home.
Yes, Nnamdi is home. So welcome home, Nnamdi. Yeah. Yes. This journey started here. You've been kind of to the ends of the earth. You have experienced all that, but it all started here. Yeah. So can you tell us about those early days here? What do you remember? Yes.
Some of my fondest memories, honestly. It's been some of my fondest memories. One thing I'll never forget, when the light would cut off. When the light would cut off, when the generator was out of fuel, and you had to find candle, you know, the flashlight.
And the mpanaka. Mpanaka. You know mpanaka? The one that a can and then they put a wick, old drag in it and things. Did you use that?
Yes,
you got to use that.
But me, I always used to like using the candle, just because something about watching the flame in the candle. To me, I don't know. I think in the Bible it talks a lot about like the significance of like fire. So I think to me, like that's why I enjoyed using a candle often. Where like when the lights would cut off, if I had, I'll light a match, light the candle, and just kind of watch as the fire danced, in the darkness. Another thing I would always remember is going to like the market with my grandma, and just like this kind of like the smell of everything, the sounds of everyone, you know. It's kind of like the hustle and bustle. Everyone is moving, everything is moving, everyone is like, there's a community there, you know. You have to move fast, you know, you kind of just like make your way, you know, but as you're moving fast, you know the connections, you know, you stop at the fish stall, you know, and it's usually the same one that you go to, you know, every week, you know, and I just like hear, you know, my grandma, everyone like kind of talking. So the unique thing was I got to meet a lot of fellow Africans, fellow Nigerians, and just the joy of connecting with people, you know, that were of similar background and kind of understood what it meant to be from where we were from. It was honestly, it's always been a joy. It's always been a joy, to put it short. So I think that's also one reason why I'm happy to be here right now. And I think that as I kind of tell you about myself, I think it's also very important. I think that one of the reasons why I'm happy that we're here right now is that it's, I think though it's great to meet people abroad and all those bonds and connections I've made with, you know, people through football, I want to use the opportunity to say that I think it's time for us like to come back to where we're from, because out in the I guess out in the world of football, out in the world of school, like you get to meet a lot of people, right? You get to meet a lot of people of different walks of life. But as I've gotten to meet a lot of successful people from the same walks that I've walked, it's got me thinking, like, imagine we all came together and came back to communities that we're from. You know what I mean? Came back, for example, here to Umueri, came back to Anambra State, came back to Nigeria.
The experience from
having gathered
other dimensions.
Exactly.
Things, yes.
You know, where like I've met guys that have studied in many different fields. You meet doctors all the time, you meet psychologists, you meet teachers, you meet guys of everywhere, and just using the knowledge and experience in which we have there, coming back and helping shape our own communities as it grows. You know,
I think I agree with you. And so, how's that journey that began? How has it been actually? How's the journey been?
The journey has been good. The journey has been more than good. It has been great. It has been a blessing, honestly, from God. It was one filled with a lot of trials, you know, and trials which I'm very grateful for. In my time at university, I never was one of the players that received, I guess, like the awards and recognitions. You know, and I'd always thought to myself, like, I know I'm a good player, you know, and I know I should be one to have been recognized as one, and though I wasn't, I think it just fueled my fire more, to the point that, you know, in the Bible they always talk about kind of, the Bible teaches us a lot of things, and one thing I learned very young, growing up here, and especially growing up, you know, in the church with my grandparents, was the teaching kind of in a sense delayed gratification, choosing to do what's right, choosing to do the hard things. You know? Even
when it's not paying off immediately, there's no immediate payoff.
Absolutely, you know, still committing yourself to God, committing yourself to what you are doing,
grinding it out in the hope that, in the knowledge that
in the end,
his there'll be a payday.
Exactly, his riches for you far exceed what you can see at the moment. You know, so for me, my journey has been phenomenal, and even through all the highs and lows, I give it all to God. You know, every chance I get, every drive that we get during the game. If you ever watch the game, before every drive, like as I'm going out on the field, I'll stop and I'll give my thanks to God. You know, because without Him, none of this, like where I am now, would not have been possible. You know, I'm grateful that I've been able to win 3 championships. You know, on a professional level. just even getting to a championship itself is a blessing.
It's a success in itself.
Yeah, it's
an
a
achievement
blessing that many
itself.
people would not get to reach. You know?
Getting drafted in such a highly competitive sport, you know, and that is like getting into the national team here, because everybody here plays our brand of football, not your own football, your soccer. You understand?
Yeah.
Everybody plays. Maybe if somebody were to introduce that American football here, you know, I think the path might be a bit easier for somebody aspiring, because there are not many competitors, not many people that want to play the game.
Absolutely.
But there, virtually everybody wants to play. So getting drafted in the first place, I think is quite a success. It's an achievement.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think so.
Though a very great success, I think it's more. I think God is using me almost as an instrument to opening a path, you know. And I say this a lot to some of my friends. When I was in Africa, I think I faced, as a child, I think I faced more competition. And let me explain. It was just because it's not competition in terms of football, but as a child, like, you have so much energy, and around me, I'd always noticed that there was a lot of great athletes around me. And one unfortunate thing was that there was not many opportunities for them to showcase that. There was not as much organized sports here as there, you know, or even the opportunities as there are over there. And if there were, I truly believe that a majority of like the guys I grew up with, like a lot of the people I grew up with, would be successful athletes. And I think that me getting drafted was almost just it was just a key into the door into a new sport in which I think that when brought to Nigeria would flourish very well. I know that I think in the upcoming Olympics they're planning on implementing flag football, a version of football, but less contact. And I think that is a great way in which to start. You know, that is a great sport to start here in Nigeria, because it doesn't require too much equipment like the football I play does, but it still requires the same skill, the same knowledge, the same athleticism, and it's something which...
And the same grit.
Exactly. It's something which many children would be able to learn, be able to play, and I think the direction in which it is trending, the direction in which it is growing, I think soon will, since it's going to be in the Olympics, I think soon even like universities and schools will begin to, you know, foster that in their programs. Because I know at universities in Canada, even in the States, they do have flag football, right? And mostly for women, which is great, but I think they'll also begin to start implementing it for men too. So now, if I'm able to come back to Nigeria, you know, and able to gain a little bit of help with my peers and, you know, the people that I've met, I think we can really grow football here in Nigeria and be able to help facilitate the growth of kids to be able to pursue education similar, you know, in the way that I have, through scholarships and everything, right? And so, though my blessing is indeed a great blessing, I think it is one in which I can use.
Namde, we'll come back to that. Like you said, here you are Namde, but over there you are
ROYCE.
ROYCE, ROYCE.
Yes.
As in Rolls Royce. As in Rolls Royce. Okay. Okay, that's good. Okay, so which one are we going to call you now? We'll call you Namde because
Namde, yeah.
Okay.
That's who I am.
So you are welcome. Now we will come back to what we are talking about. Bringing the sport here, making it popular around here, using it to connect with the youths and things, give them a new direction. We'll come back to that in a minute. But for now, so you out there, this is still the Center for Research in Igbo History and Culture. Today is still Tuesday, the 25th of February 2025, and I'm still here at the Chateau de Eze, the country home of Umueri PG, Ambassador Dr. Johnny METCHIE, and I am having this interesting chat with his son, Namde. You know, and he's been sharing with us about his life abroad, about the experiences playing American football. And I understand it's not just maybe football is a combination of so many other gifts and talents. You mentioned track and you mentioned athleticism, because without those, I don't see how you can get on the pitch there to play football.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at that, other things that you do. So, but for now, I want to tell us a little more about this, your life in sport and things like that. You know, when somebody gets into something, you have succeeded now. You have succeeded 3 championships. In how long?
7 years.
7 years. 7 years from the rookie year to now. You know, 3 championships, and there's some other successes along that. That's something. And we thank God for what He has been able to do with you. Now, anybody looking at you today will begin to think, like I used to think it was just an easy flight for you. You know, so I was surprised to hear you talking about the challenges of the early days and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, so are you really saying it wasn't just, like I said, a smooth sailing thing? You had challenges growing up, challenges fitting. Can you tell us about those challenges? What it was like in those early days?
It was interesting. It was very interesting because when let me rewind a little bit. In growing up here in Nigeria first, you know, for my brothers and I, it was challenging in the sense of, though we are around our country people, you know, and our own people, visually we're Oyibo, you know, so that was a challenge in which we faced. We're always Oyibo, but inside we're Nigerian, just as any other.
You see, because that's what I had at the back of my mind in asking this question. You're talking about when someone looks at you, looks at your father, your parentage, your background, and the way you are looking like something that was hatched from an egg. Not, you know, difficult to imagine that you experienced anything like challenges growing up, hardship, or things like that. So I'm sure that I won't be the only person wondering, looking at you now, the way you look. So tell us, how was it? What were these challenges? The nature of it?
The nature of the challenges really were experiencing different cultures, you know, and learning to understand that different cultures had different norms, you know, because for us, and especially for me, growing up here in the village, I got the experience of, you know, waking up, praying in the morning, going to the market with like my grandparents, you know, going and getting ingredients, coming home.
You did all that?
Yeah, I did all
that. We'll come back to that. We'll come back. Tell us about life here, yes, before you left.
So leading up to the next point is, because of those experiences I had when we moved to Canada, it was challenging because a lot of the things we did here was different there, right? And we didn't see a lot of people similar to us. To this day, it's been hard to find, I guess, another mixed person who is Nigerian and Taiwanese, you know? And so it was just challenging in terms of culture difference, right? When we go there, it's like, a lot of things are different. A lot of things are different. A lot of the norms are different. And so it was just learning to adapt.
Can you tell us about some of the culture shocks that you experienced moving from here to that place and having to fit? Which ones click to your memory?
In a sense, like, just...
Did you have a challenge with your accent?
Yes.
Initially?
Yes. Right away. A lot of my friends, like a lot of my friends that met me when I was younger, they say I used to have a very thick, like, African accent. Right? And they used to... Oh, man. Yeah. The accent was definitely just like, even like you said, how I pronounced Toronto versus Toronto.
Okay, right? you were on the Toronto side of it at that beginning.
Absolutely. And it was like...
then they corrupted you. Then they corrupted your pronunciation.
So just simple things like that, right? Where it's like, you got to learn how things over there, you know, kind of go, you know, just like respect, you know, the way we greet our elders and the way they kind of approach their elders is a little different. Schooling is different in a sense where education system, I've told a few of my friends this, but I find that when I got to Canada, I found that the schooling system was different, because I found that I was a little bit ahead of where they were when I first got there.
Really?
Which a lot of people are surprised about in terms of education, and I think not a lot of people know that. But if you look around the world, you get to see a lot of people from Nigeria who, when they go to school, they excel.
They excel,
right? When they leave Nigerian secondary and then they apply to universities, and already they excel. You meet a lot of cases like that, where you meet a lot of Nigerians who are already further in education, or like, yeah, I would say they were further in education, or they're, just because of our curriculum here. But when you don't know Nigeria and you haven't been from here, you're kind of shocked by that, So that was one thing. What was another culture difference?
You talked about the accent. Also, you talked about attitude to elders, relationship with elders, and things like that. You talked about that also already. And what about dressing? What about food and things like that?
Oh, the food. The food. Couldn't find pounded yam. Couldn't find it. Couldn't find all.
And that was a loss?
Yes. Yes. That was all I knew. That was what I grew up in. I needed a snack. I'll go drink Gary. But I go there.
So how did you cope with that?
McDonald's. McDonald's. It was great. The taste was great, but it was just like, I'd always known that there was a piece of me kind of, missing. So I would like, when I would meet like my Nigerian friends and stuff, I'd love to always go to their house, just because whenever their parents were cooking and stuff, I'd be like, yeah, let me know, and like they would let me know, I'll come over, I'll eat, I'll chop, like they sit down, we'll chop. And so the food was definitely different. But now in North America, you're seeing more and more shops, more and more African shops. You're able to find more and more of our ingredients in the grocery stores and stuff. And so that part.
So what about in the field of play? The challenges you met in the field of play. Were you bullied? Were you discriminated against, or things like that?
I think the biggest challenge in the field of play was when moving there. You kind of lose a lot of your friends, and you got to make new friends and stuff, right? So making friends itself is a challenge, but when it comes to sports help in a sense, because it facilitates an environment in which you get to meet your teammates, get to learn your teammates as the season grow. So the challenge of making new friends was harder in school than it was in sports. Sports actually helped me in making friends. It was challenging in the sense that, I guess, here we roughhouse a little bit more here, we're a little more aggressive, and then when we get there, it's like, for example, in elementary school in Canada, I would get in trouble often because of like my aggression. Maybe it was because I was learning to deal with my emotions, but like just the natural aggression I had, because here, like when we played football, soccer, when we ran and everything, we would roughhouse, would be physical. So when we get there, it was like, just the education system was different, where it was like they wanted everyone to grow, and in order to do that, there was kind of rules where it's like, okay, like there was a certain limit to like physical touch, right? But to me, it's like, when I play soccer, if the ball is there, I'm not going to go and let this guy just take the ball from me, right? No, I'll impose my will, because I know he will try to impose his will on me. But it was a little different, But then when it came to football, I think that's where I excelled. I was able to keep the aggression.
So sport was a leveler.
Sport was indeed a leveler. It
was a leveler for everybody. So no matter what any other person, what advantage the person thought he had, when the ball is between the two of you, it is a different language. And what advantage did you find that having fortified yourself? There's something that Winston Churchill said. He said, having spent so long in the lowest form, that he gained an immense advantage over the cleverer boys. He said he got into his bones the essential structure of the ordinary British sentence, which he said was a great thing. So the years he spent in the lowest form, learning the basic structure of English, turned to be an advantage. When he got into life. That was what he was trying to say. So those days of fortifying yourself with apple and pounded yam here and things, do you think it played a part in giving you a push when you got into such an aggressive sport as football in those days?
Yeah.
And to what extent did you account for the aggression? Because when you eat a lot of apple and pounded yam, you have a lot of energy.
A lot of energy.
Seeking to escape.
Yeah.
And the people your classmates probably have been fed on bacon and McDonald's and things like that. To what extent did you think apple and pounded yam contributed to this?
Hey. If you want to get strong, you want your children to be strong, feed them pounded yam, please. Feed them pounded yam. Feed them aba. Feed them amala. Feed them.
And what soup? And nsala or egusi?
For me, egusi.
Egusi.
Egusi, okra soup. Pepper soup. Pepper soup will build that tolerance, you know, to be able to handle pepper. When you go there and you feed them pepper soup, they'll sweat, they'll cry. They'll cry. Ogbono soup. Me, I love all of them. But no, I actually really do agree with what he said. The lessons you learn at your lowest form definitely do help you in your highest. And that was one of the things which I'm always grateful for, was my experiences. Because I got to experience life here. In a sense, I look at it as I got to experience life from Earth, you know. I got to experience growing up with Earth. You know, I got to experience life growing up on the streets here, growing up in the markets, learning how to, for example, pound yam with my hand, learning how to...
You did?
Yes. I know how to pound yam now.
Seriously?
Yes.
I go test you.
We're going to do it later. But even like, for example, like learning how to wash clothes with my hands, because that's how I learned before washing machines.
Before the
washing
machines,
right? You learn to wash clothes with your hands, go and hang it on the drying line and everything. Learning English here, you know, learning pidgin, learning just how to survive on less, you know, how to make do with less. When I got to North America, it definitely fortified who I was, because now that I am exposed to more, the lessons of who I am, you know, with less is always going on with me, because now I know that no matter where I am or how high I am or how low I am, I always remember where I started.
Where you started.
You know, and where I started was right here from the earth. You know, and since I started from here, like I already know how low it can go. And I know that no stone, you know, thrown my way will be able to knock me down.
I'm happy to hear you say that, and we'll come back to that in a moment. But let's just look at just one aspect of life in Canada and things before we come and conclude with that. So you mentioned that in the sports world over there, you had the opportunity to meet with many other sports people from Nigeria, from Ghana, and from other parts of Africa. You know, so how I think one can comfortably say that the sports over there favored you. It favored you. You have achieved success. Maybe it wasn't easy at the beginning, like you said, but you learned the importance of delayed gratification early, and that served as a very good, provided a very good foundation for you. You understand? So you were able to cope. And now the rest of your colleagues that come from Nigeria and from other African countries, do they find the same easy success in sports in America, in academics and others? Sports?
It's hard to say. I would like to say yes, but it's hard to say, because I think when you come from, I will use Nigeria, you know, as my example. When you come from a Nigerian household, there are other things that supersede sports, right? Education, faith, respect, those things, there are many different things that supersede sports.
Yes.
So there's also a lot of pressures because of those things, where like our parents always push us to always excel, especially academically. We all know the stories of how, you know, our parents were always the top of their class, you know, and every African,
even if they weren't,
they were top of their class to this day. So
until one day you are cleaning house and you happen to see an old document. And even for that, there will be an explanation.
It was just one time this teacher came and failed them for some reason. They'll give you an explanation. But yeah, you know, like there's many, I guess, pressures, and so when it came to sports, I do believe that they did face the same success, because that was an area where, outside of what your parents, had taught you, outside of what your community had, taught you, that was a place where individuals were able to thrive. So I think yes, to answer your question, yes, indeed.
So just one thing more about that before we leave that. What would you say were the greatest challenges? I mean, the toughest game you had, the lowest moment in your experience in sport? A crushing defeat that I didn't expect. Coach's attitude or attitude of other players?
I've had my fair share of all of them. When I was getting recruited to university, actually, there was one coach which I remember. He told me that my temperament and my attitude would be the reason that I would never get recruited to play in the next level, whether it be university or further my career, afterwards. And to me, at the moment, it was a dagger. It was like a dagger in my back, because it was like I'm thinking, like, why would a coach, or why would a teacher, even if he does think that, say that to someone, because in a way it's demoralizing,
Yes, of course.
And so rather than holding on to it in a negative way, like as a grudge, I took it almost as another piece of fuel, another piece of firewood, that I threw into the fire and say, I'll prove him wrong, And I think I have at this point. I think I've proved him wrong. So that was one. Another was it my third or fourth year in Calgary, right before I got traded to Toronto. I ended up tearing one of my muscles in my bicep, and it was, I think it was halfway through the season. We're just about halfway, week 8 or so, and we were playing in Hamilton, which is not far from home, so everyone had come to see the game because they didn't get to see many since I was out west.
Yes.
And that one really, I guess,
it was a tough one.
That one was tough to swallow, because I think
you expected it was your opportunity for your people to see you.
Yeah,
in
and
your
not
best
just that.
moments.
At that time, I was having a pretty good season so far, and so that was one of the seasons where I feel like I was on track to being like an all-star and everything, right? So that one was tough, because for the rest of the season, I was faced with a new challenge of not just rehab, but how do I continue to help my peers? How do I continue to grow? How do I continue to be present in using the time that I have? And so I think that was another lesson, another opportunity for a lesson where I got to learn the game a little more. I got to watch from the sideline more than I wanted to. I got to learn how to understand, like, even just my teammates.
Yes.
Seeing the game from their perspective, in a sense. Seeing how I could use what I knew to help them succeed. As much as I wanted to play, and as much as like I knew I was able to play, but it was just because one muscle in my bicep was torn. Because physically I felt fine, like I could still run and everything, but medically the doctor had advised that arm would not, unless I got surgery right away, the arm would not have the strength to help. Another thing I would always remember is going to like the market with my grandma, and just like this, kind of like the smell of everything, the sounds of everyone, It's kind of like the hustle and bustle. Everyone is moving, everything is moving, everyone is like, there's a community there, You have to move fast, you kind of just like make your way, but as you're moving fast, the connections. You stop at the fish stall, and it's usually the same one that you go to, every week. you know, and I just like hear, you know, my grandma, everyone like kind of talking, you know, and then they'll hand me the bag, and I'll carry a bag, you know, and then we're on to the next one. Go and buy tomato, go and buy yam, go and buy everything. You know, those are memories that I will always remember.
It seems even when we're talking about your life abroad, you kept referring to your grandparents and things like that. You know, you knew them,
Yeah.
and you live with them here. Can we meet them through your eyes?
I don't think I'll do it justice, but I do have to say they were two of the most incredible humans that I've ever met in my life. My grandfather, Ezi Umueri, Chief John Chukwudi
METCHIE Senior.
Number one. A great man. A great man he was. He was the kind of man that when he spoke, you knew it was him. His voice, he had a very deep, you know, very deep, stern voice where when he spoke, you knew it was him. Everyone knew that it was him. Everyone knew who was in the room. He was a judge, and he was also, if I'm not wrong, he was a former PG.
Yes.
He was a former PG, so he was a man of influence, but he was also a man. He was also a very soft-hearted man too. When I say that, I mean that he was a soft-hearted man for the community.
Yes.
You know, he would always put the community first, and that's a lesson which I always keep with me, because he taught me the importance of giving back to community. He taught me the importance of taking care of my people as I grow, because as far as you can make it individually, you will not make it far if you go alone. You know, so to me, like, he was kind of like my inspiration and my beacon in how I live my life. He was a leader of the community, you know, and he is a man who I admire very much. And then there's my grandma.
And then there's grandma. Yes.
Adolisa, Ma, Grace, and METCHIE. Very, very, very beautiful soul she was, you know. I would always remember every morning she would wake up to the sounds of like doves at her windowsill. And when she would wake up, she would make her bed, and the first thing she'll do is she'll begin, you know, her morning prayers. She would begin with singing, you know, singing her praise, singing her hymns, and then she'll wake me up. And I remember mornings we just will, you know, wake up and pray and sing together, you know. And she would often take me to the church, you know, where we would always sing, be part of the choir. And she taught me the importance of faith. She taught me the importance of my connection to God. She taught me how important it is to always remain a servant of God, you know, to always remember to put him first above all else. And she too was a very, you know, a very influential person in community where
She was, you can say that.
You know, community always came first. And she always reminded me that no matter what I had, it was important rather than saving for tomorrow if someone needed today. You know, if I have 500 naira in my pocket today, you know, rather than save it for tomorrow, if someone else needs 500 naira, to remember that we're in this life together. So help, you know, help my neighbor, help my brothers, help my sisters. And so the two of them, I wish the world got to know, because they were very, very good people.
That's nice. So, having to live here after founding your roots here and then having to go abroad, what did you miss more getting out there?
The food, for sure. But the people the most.
The people the most. Do you remember your friends of those days? You had some friends. Do you remember that you grew up with here?
I remember a few, but I remember more of the ones, for example, in Ghana.
Okay.
The ones in Ghana I remember more. The ones in Nigeria not as much. I can remember faces, but like names and stuff, like, you know, over the years I've forgotten.
Do you hope to meet some of them, to reconnect with some of them as you're coming back here?
I do.
Okay.
I really would love that.
Okay, that would be nice. Okay, so thank you very much. So it started here, and then you shifted to Canada and branched off and experienced life, achieved success and things. So why now do you feel like coming back?
Because I believe it's important to give back, but I also believe that Nigeria is growing. I believe Nigeria is growing at a very good pace too. And I believe that in coming back, there are things in which I've learned and experiences which I've had and which I would like to share to the next generation, because ultimately the next generation will inherit this earth, right? And so coming back, I would like to help facilitate the growth of Nigeria, you know, because Nigeria is so rich in culture.
You think so?
Yeah.
Have you seen the opportunities?
Absolutely.
I think so. You still think so?
Yes, because even though like over in Canada, for example, it's very multicultural, there's a lot of different cultures, but here in Nigeria, it's like there's an abundance of rich
space to grow.
Yes. It's everything is possible here.
All things are possible.
All things are possible. I truly believe that.
Okay, that is nice. That is nice. So, what, looking forward to the next year, 2 years, what do you see? What do you see yourself doing now that you are back here?
Now that I'm back, it will be more back and forth, but I want to start by kind of helping out here. I've had conversations with like my siblings, and we've been trying to figure out what the best way to help is, you know, what the best way to start is. And I think as of right now, it's both in education and medicine, you know.
Okay.
I think those would be two areas in which we'd like to focus, you know, or where we will start our focus.
Now we are run out of time and we really need to go. But what message, what would you like to say to young people? Because at this time now, it's interesting that you are coming from out there and you are thinking home. And whereas that's reverse of the reality on ground, because a lot of people, most young people of your age, will be thinking of how to, and they will say that once they go out there, they're not coming back, you know, and you've experienced all the best of it, and you're still thinking of coming back here to see what you can do. So what would be your word to your fellow Umueri young people, you know, out there?
I would advise that if you're going to go, but make sure you come back. Make sure you come back, because as far as you go, you'll only get so far, you know, and you'll find that a lot of times people say it's easier to make change where you are by starting where you are. So go and learn, go and experience, because the more experiences, the more you learn, the more you will grow, and the more you're able to give back, right? So go learn, but remember to always come back.
Always come back. Because like you said, all things are possible here.
All things are possible here.
There are more opportunities. You really believe there are more opportunities here?
Absolutely.
That's if somebody has a basic, a background in sound principles, sound morality, that the person can actually, you know, start something here and become what they want to be.
100%.
100%. Thank you for thinking so. Our people out there, the good people of Umueri, especially the young people, we've had this time chatting with your peer and your brother Nnamdi ROYCE METCHIE. You are probably, if you are sports-minded, you've been hearing of him. I've had the pleasure of watching, not an entire game, not a full game of yours, you know, but I've seen some of the beautiful moments that you shared when you won games and when you got awards. And I think a lot of our people also rejoiced in that. So they have this opportunity to see you right now. So he is telling you out there, it is possible. That's the message. It is possible. You are in a good place. Umueri is a good place. That's the message that he's giving. And he's also saying that if you have the opportunity to go out, it is good to go out, but don't keep away from your roots. it summarizes what you have to say.
100%.
It's been so nice chatting with you.
No, it's been my pleasure.
Nice. It's
Thank
a
you very
pleasure.
much.
Thank you so much. I hope before you go, maybe we'll have the opportunity to look at one or two issues that I couldn't touch again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
God bless you.
God bless. Thank you very much.